Hey, hello, and how are you? Welcome back to Leading the Charge, the podcast, our special segment called Behind Enemy Lines, where we go in depth with other NFL reporters from around the league to get a better look at the opponents the Buffalo Bills are facing. This week is the AFC divisional round. They are going to Denver to take on the Broncos. So we were bringing on our pal Nick Rothschild from our sister station, 7 News, 7 ABC out in Denver. Nick, glad to have you with us, sports reporter out there with a great sports department that covers this team very extensively, just as much as we do here in Buffalo. I was saying it to you before we started recording this, Nick. What a change the Denver Broncos have gone through since a year ago when we were talking about the David versus Goliath, the 7-seeded Denver Broncos versus the 2-seeded Buffalo Bills. What a change it's been for Sean Payton and company. They're now the AFC's top seed. They've had a great season. They dethroned the Kansas City Chiefs out of the AFC West to, I will say, the pleasure and delight of a lot of Bills fans back here in Western New York. I know it's a question that has a bajillion answers and a lot of different ways to go, but what has been maybe the biggest overarching theme or the narrative as to why things changed so drastically in a good way in just a season for this team?
Yeah, Dom, happy to be of service, first of all, knocking off the Chiefs. And crazy that 365-ish days later, we're back in the same place. Buffalo Bills and Denver Broncos dueling in the playoffs. It's going to be fun. As far as what has changed, well, I think let's just start with the fact that not much changed on the roster, but a lot changed in the execution of the way that they run Sean Payton's system on offense. They did bring in a couple of high-profile free agents, mostly on the defense, mostly former San Francisco 49ers and Talanoa Hufanga and Dre Greenlaw. Now, Hufanga has been great. He is a second-team All-Pro, probably got snubbed for the Pro Bowl, and he's really added a physicality at the safety position that they just didn't have before. Greenlaw's been in and out of the lineup, but man, when he is in there, he is an absolute menace. He changes this defense in ways that, unfortunately for you guys, you're going to have to deal with this weekend because it sounds like he is going to return from a hamstring injury to play against the Bills. On the offensive side, they added Evan Ingram. Hasn't really become the joker that Sean Payton may have made him out to be preseason, the sort of dynamic X factor in the offense. But at the same time, he adds an element to the offense that defenses have to be aware of, and it's kind of let the entire thing function better, right? So Troy Franklin has made a step in his second year. You'll remember that he caught that long touchdown, the only touchdown for the Broncos in Buffalo, but he's basically become their number 2 wide receiver after Cortland Sutton. Sutton's having another solid year. Marvin Mims, while not maybe as involved as some fans might like him to be, certainly a factor with his speed, and then you have to respect Evan Ingram in the middle of the field. So, yeah, I think back to my just initial point here, not a lot really changed if you just look at the roster from one year to the next, but another year in Sean Payton's system on offense. They're executing at a very high level right now on that side of the ball. And then on the defense, you add those 2 physical pieces in the middle, and you continue to vary your scheme the way you get after the passer with the front 7. And it's made this defense continue to be formidable.
Let's start right there. Perfect segue, Nick. This is how TV people just have this synergy, because I want to go right to this defense. It's the one thing that remains, because I remember we were talking last year. I mean, and you talk about the roster not changing for this Broncos use. I'm just looking at the depth chart, the roster. The defensive front was something that had to be taken accounted for last year, and something that was a real positive on this defense. That has remained the same. But you also have a pass retain back there, right? A guy who's an all-pro cornerback, a lockdown guy who has taken wide receiver ones completely out of the picture. A lot of people here in Buffalo will be like, well, Brandon Beane was playing 3D chess and doesn't have a wide receiver one, so who is he going to take out? It's still somebody you have to account for. Vance Joseph is obviously, you've been tracking this, probably been rumored in, circles to become a head coach somewhere else. Teams are interviewing or requesting to interview him as this team makes it. But it's just such a strong unit. I could go on for days and days. Defensively, what has been maybe the key or the couple guys who have stepped up, maybe the obvious guys? And then who are some X factors on defense that you think have quietly made this Broncos unit, again, a top 3 unit in almost every statistical category that ranks good defenses?
Well, the defense runs through Zach Allen, Dom, and maybe not a name that everybody across the league knows, or at least not the fans of teams know, but he has the most quarterback pressures of any player in football this year. Only amounted in a handful of sacks, but the guy is such a physical force in the middle of that defensive line. He plays the run really well. He moves the pocket inside the interior of the pocket, pushing it up against the quarterback as he pass rushes. He has really taken his game to another level and earned an all-pro selection due to that. And when he is on the field, it just creates space for those outside guys to work either one-on-ones or stunts. It's kind of the straw that stirs the drink, if you will, for Vance Joseph's very exotic blitz packages that he likes to bring. You mentioned Pat Surtain. I'll be interested to see how they deploy the secondary in this game, because I don't think you want to play too high against Josh Allen. He'll just dink and dunk you, or he'll take off and run. I think you're going to have to play some man coverage against the Bills. And so then who do you line up Surtain against? Like you said, no number one wide receiver, really. Do you want to move him inside to maybe cover a tight end? Dalton Kincaid, he's a little bit of a tricky figure there. Brandon Cooks. I don't know what they're going to do with Surtain, but he certainly is a weapon. The X factor, though, if you're going to ask me who's sort of the under-the-radar guy that could make a difference, I've already mentioned him, but it's Dre Greenlaw. Mm-hmm. The guy has not played to the extent that they hoped he would as far as an every down backer due to injuries, but when he is on the field, this defense goes from they're an elite unit, but they can be kind of got in certain areas, to they are one of the best units in the entire league, perhaps in Denver Broncos history, when Greenlaw is in the middle of that defense playing both the run and in coverage. So that's the guy to me that I think he takes this game from maybe the Bills should be favored on the road to, I think that's a little risky. I think the Broncos have a good chance to win.
And you bring up Dre, and it's funny because I'm looking at the stats and the depth charts of a couple things here. So for those of you who are watching the video feed of this, and it's like, Dom is not paying attention to anything Nick is saying. No, I am. It's just I have on my other screen here just a bunch of other notes and stats here. I mean, Dre Greenlaw, what an interesting figure too, because I think everybody remembers that video of him in the Super Bowl, and he pops his Achilles right on the sideline. And he was one of the guys, when you look at the last injury report that we saw week 18 for the Broncos, as they're getting ready to take on the Chargers, he was the guy that's out. And I know that what a difference a guy like him can make. I almost think it's for the Bills equivalent. I would say Bills fans look at it like Shaq Thompson, of the difference he makes when he is or isn't on the field if Terrell Bernard is injured. Quite frankly, this season, Shaq has been the better linebacker in that regard too. A lot of different ways defensively that I feel like this Broncos team can beat you. We switch to the offense, Nick, and we mentioned a couple playmakers too. You have a premier wide receiver in Courtland Sutton. I have been a big fan of Courtland Sutton on my fantasy teams for a very long time, and he normally does very good. This year is another good season there too. RJ Harvey leading you out of the backfield there. Troy Franklin, you mentioned. Bills fans will remember him as the one guy who made the one big play that put everybody on the edge of their seats for a little bit to start this wild card game.
Yeah, like 30 seconds.
Yes, but hey, for Broncos fans, a fun 30 seconds, maybe a little foreshadowing into this. I want to talk about Bo Nix, because I don't think a lot of people fear the matchup of Bo Nix offensively right now, on this being this Monday, less than 24 hours or so, maybe a little bit more after the Bills beat Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars. They don't maybe fear Bo Nix's ability as a quarterback as much as right now they did Trevor Lawrence a week ago. But what has been Bo Nix's jump from year 1 to year 2 look like? And how has he been able to grow in this offense and lead the Broncos to the kind of record they did this year?
Well, that's where Bo does his best work, Dom. When you don't fear him, when you think him to be pedestrian, is when he generally comes out and plays his best. Now, he is not going to light you on fire with his arm strength or his playmaking ability, but what he will do is he will not hurt himself or this offense. He keeps the offense on schedule for Sean Payton, which is huge. He does not turn the ball over. He really does not take sacks. And I think that's going to be sort of the key. If Bo Nix can stay upright and out of trouble and keeps the offense sort of in the third and mediums, the third and shorts, then you'll see what the outcomes that you want if you're Sean Payton, the getting into the red zone, the getting into field goal range, the putting points on the board. The thing that would, I guess, concern me from a Bo Nix perspective is he threw the ball more than any quarterback in the entire league this year, more passing attempts than anybody. And that's really not how you're going to win playoff games, especially not against the Bills. If you go try to out Josh Allen, you're going to lose, my friend. So I really think the Broncos need to find a way to establish the running game in this thing. We've been saying, you haven't heard this, Don, but we've been saying it for weeks, and it just does not materialize on Sundays. They can't seem to either commit to the running game or get enough effective runs to force Sean Payton to continue handing the ball off. Some of that is because J.K. Dobbins, unfortunately, was lost to injury earlier on in the season. But especially because Buffalo's run defense hasn't been great this season, you almost just have to bang your head against that wall until it finally works. Because if Bo throws the ball 35 plus times in this game, I think that's a bad sign for the Broncos' chances to win.
Yeah, you mentioned the Bills' run defense. Obviously, Travis Etienne had a pretty good game against them yesterday too, and it is the one thing defensively the Bills have just not been able to figure out. But the one area they found a lot of success in yesterday was the pre-snap switch coverages they were throwing on Trevor Lawrence, which I'm sure Sean McDermott and Bobby Babich throw a little bit at Bo Nix to try to see if the second-year quarterback can decipher that and go and try to move this offense along in the way that you described it too. Overall, we look at this team, we look where they are right now. The Broncos get the home field advantage, the 1 seed. It's early in the week, Nick. We're recording this on Monday for those that are listening. So I know you haven't really gotten a chance to get down to the facilities and talk to them, see how they're feeling. We haven't heard this from anything from Buffalo, but it's a short week. I have to imagine the Broncos are feeling, at least in the advantage of, we're a little bit more well rested. The odds makers have the Bills at slight 1.5 point favorites last time I checked. Same as it was last week for Jacksonville. And then by Saturday, it flipped. So who knows how that shakes up right before kickoff Saturday. How much of a rest advantage do you think the Broncos get out of this? Or is this something you think Sean Payton and them don't focus on?
Well, if they get Dre Greenlaw back, Dom, it will be huge. That's like the sort of getting healthy, the nagging stuff, giving that a week to rest. Getting Dre Greenlaw back on the field. John Franklin Myers, also one of their defensive linemen, was dealing with something for the Chargers game, so he didn't play, but he's going to be back, Sean Payton said. So it's sort of like just the icing on the cake of making sure everybody is as healthy as possible at this point in the year. I think it matters a lot. And, we have the rest versus rust conversation all the time. And to me, I'm always going to choose rest. I'm always going to choose at this time of year, the fact that you can take that week to get a little bit healthier, I think matters way more than the staying in the rhythm aspect of it. You also only have to win 2 games to make it to the Super Bowl. It's one less variable you have to deal with. So I think the rest should play a big role for the Broncos. I don't know. Look, you put your pedal to the metal, so to speak, during the year to earn the 1 seed, to get that home field advantage, to maybe make a difference in the way that this game plays out, as we referenced last year's wild card game. But I'm afraid of Josh Allen, Dom. I'm really, really afraid that this is his Superman year.
If yesterday's game against the Jaguars was any indication of it, yeah, this is that moment. And for Bills fans will tell you, or I should say just for Buffalo, right? There's no Lamar Jackson or Mahomes or Burrow. The same narrative we've been hearing about this playoffs is that there is nothing in the way. So I can understand Broncos fans' worries there too. I think Josh Allen is going to play at the level that we've seen him play in the playoffs. But again, it's another top-ranked defense. It's another very good offense that has proven itself against some very good defenses this year. Nick, this is an overarching question. There's a lot of different ways you can go with this. And you were talking about it a little bit when we were just kind of discussing the way that Bo Nix runs this offense. Give me the way the Denver Broncos win this game, right? You start with, you have to try to find a way. We talk about this with Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow when they go against Buffalo, or premier quarterbacks, right? You're never going to stop them. I'm sure limiting Josh Allen and his abilities is one. But if you're building the recipe for how the Broncos win at home against this Bills team, what does that look like?
Well, I would have said you have to, pressure Josh Allen and hit him and make him feel you physically. But Jacksonville did all that, and it didn't matter. Jacksonville has the best run defense in the league, and it didn't matter against Josh Allen last weekend. So I think, honestly, and this scares me to say, I think the game comes down to Bo Nix. If Bo Nix and this Broncos offense, as I mentioned, can stay on schedule, can score touchdowns in the red zone, and force Josh Allen to play in comeback mode, then I think you have a chance to maybe force a turnover, maybe get him a little bit uncomfortable. But like if this game stays in the Bills' wheelhouse, I think you're going to lose. As good as the Broncos have been in one score and close games all season, and Sean Payton believes this group has really learned how to win and be comfortable in those spots. Not in the playoffs, you haven't. Not against this quarterback, you haven't. And when if things just get turned up a little too tight there in the fourth quarter, I really think that benefits the road team in this scenario. So I think Bo Nix can't make a mistake. And this is the weird thing to say about a team who's the 1 seed, who's been very good all year. They've the offense has been if not a top tier offense, at least a very efficient offense. But your margin for error on Saturday is nothing. If you make a mistake, if you turn the ball over, if you fumble the ball, if you take too many sacks, you're gonna get beat at home. And Josh Allen is gonna wave to John Elway as he runs off the field like, "Hey, remember me? Your biggest mistake of your career as a GM? Yeah, I'm taking this thing to the AFC Championship game."
Sean Payton in this moment too. How much, I guess, does his ability in this moment to also out-coach, or I guess, out-duel in a more sporty term, Sean McDermott, how much does that, just out of curiosity, Nick, factor into this as well?
Well, I think fans would tell you it matters a lot. I think they believe that Sean Payton has a pretty significant advantage over Sean McDermott just because of the very, I guess, high-profile, we'll call them mistakes that McDermott has made in big games. I am not of that mind. I think McDermott is a great coach. I think he's done so well to keep this team on the rails in a season that at times felt like it was, going to head into the ditch, much like Baltimore or Kansas City. And I think that the team believes in Sean McDermott. So I tend to look, coaching affects games in the margins, and NFL games are won in the margins. So that it makes a big difference. But I am of the opinion that realistically, unless it's Matt LaFleur against the Bears, the coaching doesn't make a huge difference. So I think Sean Payton, while his biggest advantage here is that he's at home and he's got a great connection with his quarterback, and he's got a very tough system to defend in the way that he sort of employs his offense. And he's got a group that believes. He's got a group that has won a bunch of close games, and hopefully he can lean on that message this week. But I think overall, just in the grand scheme of things, the coaching advantage discussion is not one that I think that really plays out heavily in playoffs.
This is another really, and this is honestly, Nick, a question I wouldn't, if we did this podcast at maybe 8-9 this morning, I wouldn't even have had this question, but I've seen it circulating on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it nowadays. So I want to bring this up. The elevation. How much does that matter? How much, like you've seen so many teams that play not in Denver's elevation come in there and play. I am just so curious from a guy who lives in this elevation, who knows the differences that, does come with playing in higher elevations, a lack of oxygen, whatever it may be. How much does that truly do play into it, if at all?
I think athletes will tell you it matters. I think they'll, it's not usually at the beginning of the game. It's sort of in the middle when you start to feel like your lungs are being constricted by like an anaconda or something, and you just can't catch your breath the way that you normally would. But those same athletes will tell you by the fourth quarter, you're good. Like you've already kind of you have to get over the hump, so to speak. And then it's sort of play ball normally. I think, like Broncos fans, Colorado sports fans really want to wave that flag and be like, "Oh, Buffalo, short week. They had to travel last week and they're coming to elevation. Like everything's in our favor." Well, yeah, you have home field advantage. That's the whole point. Like I think, Buffalo going to New England this week would have been, a similar type of disadvantage just because the Bills have to go on the road. So
right.
I think it's something. It's not nothing, but at the end of the day, I don't think it plays like no one's going to come out after the game and say, "Well, the Broncos won because they are used to the altitude." Even if they were even if the Bills players were being honest about the way it affects them, I just don't think it affects them enough. These guys are all like A++ athletes. They can go anywhere in the world and be great athletes. I don't think that's really going to be a huge effect. Now the Broncos will tell you, like, in the fourth quarter, they want it to feel oppressive. Like they want the noise loud. They want the pass rush coming. They want it to like feel like the walls are caving in because of the altitude. I just don't know how much. Like Trevor Lawrence sure looked fine a few weeks ago when he was carving up the Broncos, and he came from basically below sea level.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Like you said, I think a lot of people maybe on Twitter who are having these arguments, and Bills fans were feeding right into it too. A few of them I saw, but yeah, these are, to your point, A++, elite tier athletes, know how to take care of their bodies. Unlike maybe me, because this is a side story, but first job out of school, Nick, I was working in Montana. So I know you're a Colorado guy coming out of it. So you understand it. I remember one time during COVID, I was like, I'm going to get back into running. Took a jog once in the elevation for the first time. I was by half a mile in, I was sucking air, bent down on my knees, wondering, did I really let myself get out of here? It was a real thing, but that's because
it's science. Like, it is legit. The altitude will affect you. It affect you and me more than Josh Allen and Bo Nix on Sunday, I think, though.
Yeah, we're more intramural sport athletes when it comes to that conversation. So, yeah, I very, very much so there too. All right, Bills Broncos Saturday. Time, network, still to be determined at this point that we're recording. It's about 6:00 Monday night. Nick, before I let you go, is there any final points that we haven't touched on just about this match, about this game that you wanted to get kind of into here?
Well, you kind of mentioned it without Lamar and Patrick Mahomes in this. Like, the Broncos fans who saw this postseason slate or whatever heading into wild card weekend were like salivating. We have the 1 seed. There are no real boogeymen other than Josh Allen to really navigate in this playoffs. This legitimately, in a year that we were just hoping to sort of take the next step towards a Super Bowl, this is a year we could find ourselves in the Super Bowl. And then as things started to play out, as Josh Allen put the cape on in Jacksonville, and as Justin Herbert literally imploded in New England, Broncos fans are legitimately worried. This is not a 1 seed going into a game feeling like a 1 seed should, at least from the fans' perspective. It is not. Josh Allen is the boogeyman. Okay. And what happened yesterday in the way that Allen looked great. And then you're watching that game, the Sunday night game, and you're just kind of like, please, Justin Herbert, please do something to make us not have to face that Bills team next week. Just from like listening to the radio today and talking to people, like, it feels like it's the Broncos that are the 6th seed having to travel to the 1 seed. So I don't know how much that's going to play into the way that the players feel. They don't really buy into all of that stuff, but I can tell you, as far as just outside of the football momentum goes, it is all Buffalo. And I would be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised rather to see, you said it's a 1.5 point line to the Bills as of Monday night. Mm-hmm. I think it's going to be closer to 2.5, 3 points by the time we get to kickoff.
No kidding. All right. Well, maybe the Vegas insiders are going to look at this podcast and be like, you know what, this Nick guy.
I know they're listening.
This is Nick Rothschild, sports reporter from 7 News out in Denver. Greatly appreciate your time, Nick. Before I let you go, plug yourself. Where can people read your work? We got a whole week to prepare. Like I said, we're recording this on Monday, so we've got about 4 or 5 more days for everybody to kind of get this Broncos content. Where can they find and watch your work?
Yeah, Denver7.com is the best place. You can also find me on any social network, Nick, Nick_Rothschild. Yeah, we'll be talking Broncos all week. A lot of sports news as well here in Denver. And I don't know if you're going to do a pick here, Dom, but I think I would
go right ahead.
Look, as we sit, Bills -1.5. I think that's too slim. I am legitimately concerned about this Broncos team. I wish it were not so, Dom. I wish it were not so, but I would put my chips on the Bills to move on.
Wow. Noble man. If I had to give my early radar feel too, and this is where I start to get concerned, because I didn't feel good at all about the Jaguars last week. I really thought that just the complementary offense and defense of that Jacksonville squad was just going to be a little bit too much. But here we are, to your point, the same conversations about when it came down to Josh Allen versus Trevor Lawrence. Josh Allen won. The better quarterback won. And I do believe, and this isn't just because I cover the guy, but I do believe Josh Allen's a better quarterback than Bo Nix. And to your point, if it feels like it comes down to Bo Nix having to make the final play to get this done, it does feel to me that Josh Allen, the Bills, would be the favorites there too. So at this moment right now, when we're recording, I do feel confident the Bills move on, but this is not an easy place to play. The Broncos are a very good team with a very tough defense and a lot to prove in a year where, hey, maybe they're playing a little bit of house money, to your point.
And if you want an indicator while you're watching the game that things are going south for the Broncos, if at halftime they are averaging less than 4 yards per carry on the ground, just put all your money on the Bills to win at that point. I don't care what the score is. I don't care what the line is. If the Broncos are averaging less than 4 yards a carry when we hit halftime on Saturday, put your mortgage on the Bills. Just do it.
There you go. Heard the man. There you go. You want to make a good investment? Listen to Nick Rothschild. He'll get you in there. He'll have all the
Don't
news
don't
and details.
tell me when that doesn't work out for you. Listen, I cover this team a lot. I'm just telling you what's going to happen. I'm just telling you.
Nonetheless, it's going to be way better than last year's
Should be
wild card
fun.
game,
Yeah,
Nick.
should be
At least
fun.
that's what I'm hoping. Way better than that 31-7 game. This will be another great game. The playoffs have just been spectacular so far, and I'm sure the time we're recording this, we still haven't seen the Pittsburgh-Houston wild card game. I'm sure that'll be great as well. Look forward to talking to you more throughout this week, Nick. I appreciate you. For Nick Rothschild, I'm Dom Tibbetts. This has been Leading the Charge Behind Enemy Lines. Talk to you guys soon.